The match has finished West Ham 1, Aston Villa 1. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it at the moment, actually. It feels like a bit of an opportunity missed. Not to sit here and sound like an entitled West Ham fan. I don't necessarily think we should be beating Aston Villa, but on reflection, having watched that game, I felt they were there for the taking. I really did. I thought what we saw was a lethargic Aston Villa who turned up with slightly the wrong tactics in the first half. And it was very much, there'll be a cliche. The cliche will be trotted out, I guess, a game of two halves. And do you know what? I'm pretty sure it was. But it didn't have to be that way. I felt there was a point in the game where, well, I think first of all we settled and we sat on a one-goal lead. And then once they took it back to 1-1, I felt we'd almost settled for the draw. I thought that anyway, but we still did have attacks after that. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on there. But it does, I guess we'll only find out at the end of the season whether that's a good point or whether that isn't. But there was certainly, this is not the best Aston Villa team I've seen, even this season. This didn't seem like the sort of swashbuckling team that beat us 4-1 earlier on in the season. And we started really, really well. Really well. Goal from Antonio. I say we started well. I thought we were quite slow for the first 10, 15 minutes. Then we sort of built up to it and we enjoyed a really, really good half. Vladimir Coufal supplied Antonio. He was good all game today, Coufal. Really, really good. His delivery was very precise for the duration. Well, every time he attacked, he seemed to produce a threatening delivery, actually. I think it's as good as I've ever seen it in terms of his distribution, certainly. Thought he was tackling well. I thought he had that right-hand side locked down for the vast majority of the game as well. And it was a really good goal. It was a beautiful cross, sort of, swung over quite, well, it was low down because Antonio, who headed it in, had to sort of stoop down to head it in. But it's one of those situations where defenders don't know whether to go for it, goalkeeper doesn't know whether to go for it. It was really good, really, really good. And it was well finished by Antonio. And I thought we looked pretty good up to that point. But whilst David Moyes played most of his attacking players, or those that he could, I never felt at any point we were really actively going for it and attacking them. It was just David Moyes got more attacking players on the pitch. I thought actually we were quite tight. We were pretty damn good at the back. Mavropanos had a hell of a game actually, but we were picking and choosing when to attack. We were conserving our energy very much at the start, and I think what was clearly evident was you had two teams that have played in Europe as well, and it's not an easy thing to do. There's no doubt about it, and I felt very much you had a couple of teams, and one of whom maybe is more prone to making substitutions than the other one. But I didn't think overly our fatigue told in this game. And I thought we were good. We were really good for our lead at half-time. The 1-0 lead was really good. Moyes' tactics worked well. And Emery had started with two strikers up front. We kept Ollie Watkins really quiet in that first half. In fact, we kept Ollie Watkins quiet for the majority of the game. He'll score lots of goals this season. I thought we did really, really well against him. And a lot of really good players put in an excellent defensive shift. Players like Coufal, like Mavropanos. To be fair, I felt Emerson, for the most part, won his individual battle against Bailey, who's a really, really good player, Bailey. But I felt that Emerson came out on top. We didn't have the same sort of swashbuckling attacking football that we've seen from Emerson all this season. I thought there's more of a defensive performance from him. But I did think that was quite indicative of how West Ham played. Yet because we had all of these good players on the pitch in this game, I certainly felt that we were able to cause them problems if we needed to on a counter-attack. And there was the necessary fear in Aston Villa that if we did get the ball, we would cause them some issues. I mean, let's be fair, Bowen had a quiet game. Apart from his deliveries, his corner deliveries were very good, but by and large, Bowen had a quiet game. He was heavily involved in the... I don't know what minute it was. The truth be known, I think I've just gone and watched 104, 105 minutes of football. That game ran over by a significant part. So I think there were 3 minutes in the first half, actually. Possibly it went on for 48 minutes in the first half. So, yeah, I think in terms of additional time in that game, including the first half, that may well have been 17 or 18 minutes longer than a sort of 90-minute football match. It's a bit ridiculous, actually. It has to be said. But anyway, that's what happened. We started the second half really, really well in terms of we put the ball in the back of the net again. VAR ruled it out. It wasn't going to be the last time that this actually happened. It was Antonio... It was a good, really good corner from Bowen. And Antonio, he sort of, initially it looked like he'd chested it in. But he would sort of, I guess he'd sort of pulled his arm back a little bit. Maybe it glanced off his arm. Maybe it didn't. Look, I would hope with you guys that I've got enough credit in the bank that if I don't overly want to blame officials and VARs for decisions, I don't. I think sometimes you can put too much on there. I think on this time, I think it was harsh. I thought that was quite harsh on us. I don't believe that should have been chalked off. You could make a case for it touching his arm, but I think you could make a case for it not touching his arm as well. What happened thereafter was quite bizarre, and I found it quite frustrating, actually, and this is where I feel it was an opportunity missed. We've got an international break coming up now, and as I understand it, I think... certainly, I think when we were doing our Patreon breakfast show, Stephen popped up and told us that Jamaica didn't have a game coming up. So Antonio doesn't have a game to play. Yet he was sort of withdrawn, 69 minutes, something like that. Antonio was taken off and Johnson was put on, which was weird. I mean, honestly, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Antonio wasn't having his best game, but he'd had the ball in the back of the net twice. I don't think anyone was really having their best game amongst that front three. I thought Bowen was relatively quiet. Kudus was probably the best out of the three, but it was... I just found it weird. We took off a real attacking threat and put on Ben Johnson, and I like Ben Johnson, I do. But I just thought it was a bizarre thing to do. And of course, Emery by this point, I think he made 2 substitutions at half-time, which was... He certainly brought on Matty Cash, he brought on Diaby. And I thought they both worked. They were both sort of made that side a little bit better. And eventually that was where Aston Villa's goal was going to come from. Good work from Diaby. I think possibly Paquetá could have done better. I just think he missed it. I think he probably could have cleared it. I was on a few times he probably missed the ball. He was up to his usual tricks today. Lots of flicks, lots of tricks. Lots of tackles. I think he got some tackles and he got some interceptions today as well. But I just think he missed the ball there, and then I think one of the few times, in fact, there were 2 occasions when Alvarez wasn't at his very best, and this was one of them. Diaby sort of got the ball over, and it was Zaniolo who got the goal. But he'd made lots of substitutions, Emery, and I think it was quite stark by that point that... I think at that point, Emery had made 4 substitutions. He was trying everything he could to change the game, and we weren't. We just weren't doing this sort of stuff, which I think is what made it really frustrating. I think what became more frustrating after that was that I felt at 1-1, and I might be wrong here. I'm more than prepared to be wrong on this if you think otherwise. I felt Moyes started to play for the draw then. Because then he took off Emerson, he took off Paquetá. And Paquetá was good today. I thought he was really good. And he brought on James Ward-Prowse, he brought on Cresswell. And I very much thought it was there to protect the game. Left us with 2 attackers. So it left us with Bowen and it left us with Kudus. Whereas I felt at the start of the game we had 4 because we had Antonio there and we had Paquetá there as well. So... it was always going to be difficult thereafter. We did get a chance, actually, and it was... well, we got more than a chance. We'll get to the VAR stuff in a second. The chance we had was actually Kudus made a good run down the right. I was surprised he had it in him. He was knackered by that point. There's no doubt about it. But he managed to choose his options well, and he managed to pull the ball back for James Ward-Prowse, who was, 13... I don't know why I'm picking 13. It's about, 10 to 13 yards away from the goal. He should have finished. He was unmarked. He should have scored. I mean, somebody that can deliver set pieces with the type of precision that he does should be able to direct the ball better than he did. I mean, so we probably... I felt we may have deserved to win that game, but it was probably a deserved draw. But we could have won that game. It wouldn't have been a robbery if we'd have won that game, because I felt we had the ball in the back of the net twice as well. We'll get to the other VAR one. We'll have to. It was right at the end of the game. Ward-Prowse free kick from a deep position, and it sort of got swung over. I felt Mavropanos sort of miskicked it. It sort of bobbled, bounced its way towards the goal. And there was almost like this collision of bodies, if you like. So we had Jared Bowen sort of going in there. We had Thomas Souček going in there, and we had one of the Villa defenders trying to clear it. And it was a bit of a bundle. And the ball ended up in the back of the net. The referee gave the goal. Then VAR took a long time. I mean, a long, long time. longer than I've been talking on this video. And I think that's fair, right, thus far, to really decide. Honestly, it was such a shame. It may have hit Souček's arm. It may have hit Bowen's arm. They were looking for it. I really felt they were looking for a reason to disallow the goal. And I think that's bad. And as I say, there's been a couple of games recently where I haven't come on here and blamed the officiating. In fact, I've said forget the officiating. The first game against Freiburg, go back and listen to that, look at the end of it with Souček, it was handball. Do you remember the handball and we didn't get a handball? I said, don't, let's not concentrate on that because it's not reflective of the game. West Ham were their own worst enemies in there. But I do think this needs looking at. There was also a situation where Zaniolo threw the ball away. He didn't get a yellow card, but Mavropanos got a yellow card for throwing the ball away. I always think it's a bad look, and you can call yourself, you allow yourself to be called into question, I think, as officials, if you're going to officiate a game differently for the two teams that were on the pitch. And I think that's quite something to have two goals sort of ruled out. It was a bit of a bundle, but I think overall, for sort of three decisions to go against you like that, I don't necessarily think is a great look for the referee. The other thing I wanted to mention was Edson Alvarez got involved in something he really didn't need to get involved in, and well, actually, a bet didn't come in. A bet must have almost come in today, actually, funny enough, in a build-up. But I fancied Alvarez to get a card today. That's why I said it in a build-up. Because I just don't think he can help himself. And it's such a shame because he'd marshalled himself so well. I thought he was brilliant for the vast majority of that game. But he got involved in a scuffle he really didn't need to. And now he's going to miss Newcastle and he's going to miss Tottenham. And I'm annoyed about that because he's so important to the way we play. And it may well, the thing that ultimately might cost us not qualifying for Europe for next season, it may be us getting a point rather than 3 against Aston Villa. It may well do, but it may well be the points that we could possibly lose against Newcastle with Edson Alvarez not being there. It's so tight at the top. The league probably doesn't look too bad. Now, in fact, it doesn't. We'll be up there in 7th place. But Brighton haven't played this weekend, so I think if they've got a game in hand and they can go above us and so on and so forth. I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, David Moyes was right with his substitutions. Maybe we weren't going to get another goal, and possibly James Ward-Prowse coming on and swinging that ball over. We created another chance. No, we created another chance. We created another 2 chances after he did his substitutions. One of them, the ball went in the back of the net. The other one, Ward-Prowse should have scored. So possibly David Moyes would argue they weren't defensive substitutions, but it was hard, certainly from my perspective, to view it as anything other than defensive moves and defensive substitutions. And he's frustrating. He's a frustrated manager, and I really wanted to. I wanted to get behind the team. I felt behind the team. I felt enthusiastic about it. Certainly the comeback against Burnley and the win against Freiburg had made me. I want to see David Moyes putting more attacking players on there. And I want to look. I made no secret. I'd rather he wasn't here next season. And I want to be proven wrong. I want to see this stuff. I'd love us to have thumped Villa today, and obviously we beat Freiburg. And let's say we go and beat Newcastle, and then we beat Leverkusen and get through. Then of course I've got questions to ask myself, questions to answer. Hold on a second. If David Moyes qualifies us for Europe for a 4th season in a row. And we won a trophy. I mean, anyone that wants Moyes out, you'd have to, and I'm talking about myself here, you'd have to seriously question yourself, so I'm not that entrenched in it. So I really wanted to win this game. But you know what, when he does these silly-ass substitutions, it just makes you think, oh, come on, mate, come on. They are a good team, Villa, and I think we're a good team, if I'm honest. I don't think we made it easy for them today, and I think, in many respects, I think both teams got lucky in terms of we were both playing another team that had played in Europe and had a midweek game, so I think possibly that helped us. That was a help for both teams because there was a lack of energy, I felt, in the first half from both sides. So anyway, there you go. Look, it turned out 1-1, full of incident for 1-1. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We'll be back tomorrow, myself and Gio, with player ratings. First, looking at it, just wondering when we play ratings, but we'll be doing our player ratings tomorrow. Some good ratings in there. Some good ratings, no doubt about it at all. And I thought, as I said, I thought Soufal was really good. I thought Mavropanos was really good today, but they weren't on their own. Far from it. Incident-packed game. With a tinge of frustration over the officiating. And I think certainly if you're going to start taking off Antonio, this is what happened. He took off Antonio, he took off Emerson, he took off Paqueta when you're playing a team. It was 50. I thought it was 50-50 throughout most of the game. And if it's a 50-50 game, you've got a chance of winning it, right? And I don't know. I don't know. I would have liked us to kept our attacking players on the pitch, and it certainly felt like those attacking players were obviously replaced with players that aren't attackers. We're not calling James Ward-Prowse an attacker, are we? I presume not. So you had Antonio, Paqueta, and Emerson. I know Emerson is a defender, but he's an attacking defender, isn't he? Was sort of replaced by Ben Johnson, Ward-Prowse, and Cresswell. So I don't know, but a little bit of a lack of ambition there. But as I say, we very nearly won the game in the end, and that could have gone anyway. Really, that goal. So that disallowed goal. So another opportunity, I guess, another example of us attacking right until the end of a game and never giving up. And the team have definitely got that. The team have got spirit. Anyway, I'm waffling on. I'll catch you later. Enjoy there's not much left, is there? Enjoy what's left of your weekend. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.